Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the channel. I hope that you're having a wonderful one out there. Thank you so much for clicking on the video. I'm excited. I'm really enjoying this kind of trip down more avant-garde music and stuff like that. Steve Reich we have to listen to. Today we're going to listen to Octet. This is off of his album Octet / Music for a Large Ensemble / Violin Phase, released in 1980. We're listening to this because it was suggested and sponsored by Alan. Thank you so much for the recommendation, for the support. And I've genuinely been enjoying this journey and looking into music like this. You know, you've definitely been a huge forerunner in sharing that with us. And like, it's not always music that, you know, I'm going to like listen to like on my own or add to a playlist. But I just think it's really cool to really push your boundaries, push your walls out a little bit. You know, sometimes we get very confined in our walls with our music. Push out a little bit. You got to explore. How do you discover new music? You got to push those boundaries a little bit. Now, Steve, I have one of his albums. Not have one, but I have one of his albums on my wish list to get to. I'm pretty sure it was him. Mr. Steve Reich. There we go. If I'm thinking of, I'm pretty sure it was him that I have one of his albums on my playlist. It was an electronic ambient album. I can't remember the name, but it had like geometric shapes on it. I'm not sure if I can find it quick enough without wasting time for you guys, because I know you want me to get to the music. I'm pretty sure it was him that I'm thinking of, that I had an album to my playlist because I wanted to listen to it. But it was an ambient album. I'm looking for it while I speak. It was kind of an ambient album, so I was kind of debating if I wanted to do it on the channel here, because I felt like that might be boring to people, especially depending on how ambient it is. I don't know. I don't see it here on my wish list now as I'm looking through, but I'm pretty sure it was him. It was here it is. Oh, I'm thinking of someone else apparently. I'm thinking of Steve Roach, not Steve. This is the album I have on my playlist, but I didn't know how ambient it was. And I didn't want to listen to it if, you know, people would think it's boring. But it's something that I wanted to listen to. Wrong Steve. Anyways, let's go ahead and listen to this particular piece of music. We will discuss it a little bit after. I am pulling it up. Here we go, guys. Say something really weird. There's something jazzy about this. to listen to. This sounds very meditative and peaceful to me. Whimsical. Flute is so playful. Hear that new melody that started? That's so cool how they change like that. It's like a Rubik's Cube of music. Sense of urgency kind of came in. I love how elements are faded out. You don't even notice. And then when it starts, the piano. Back and forth violins. jazzy about those horns. This is like a piece of music you get lost completely. Felt like a big change. You can listen to a different element every single time. This is one of those pieces. There's that wave. This is music is math. Perfect. Perfect. There's going to be a subset of you that for this particular video, you skipped to this moment because you heard maybe the first like 30 seconds. You said, not for me. That's okay. When you have time to, not like when you're watching me doing like a reaction video, but when you have time, when you have personal time, go back, even if you don't watch this video, and just listen to it on your own. When you have like some quiet time, sit in front of, I don't know, a fireplace or maybe not. Just lay back in your bed, lay back, watch the stars, take a hike, take like a nature walk, and let this play. I thought that this was wonderful. This is so interesting because there's so many elements that are constantly moving. And Alan, when you had suggested this, you even said that Steve is a big influence on early Mike Oldfield. You can definitely hear that because of the constant, changes of elements, the stream of music that is constantly flowing in and flowing out. And it's really cool to hear this. This reminds me a little bit of when we listened to Glassworks by Philip Glass. It's something kind of similar. You have a repetition, right? You have this constant stream. But just as no man steps into the same river twice, the music, as is enduring in its repetition, is constantly changing, and not 1 second is the same as the next second, as even though it may sound very similar. All the music, all the elements, the violins, the flutes, everything that's happening is constantly connecting and then disconnecting, joining up and then disengaging with one another, and playing in different rhythms and jumping off of each other, panning to the left, panning to the right, fading down, fading in. Like, it's really cool to hear how the music is being played and performed. And this is a piece that I could definitely see like live musicians playing, and it would just be really wonderful to listen to. Like, I won't lie, this sounds to me, this is going to be controversial, but if I'm being honest with you, I would rather, just read between my lines. I would rather go to a concert with classical musicians performing this than some of the classical music that I've listened to. For some reason, this engages me. I like the meditative, at least in my opinion, I think this is very meditative aspect of the music. It lulls you in and keeps your mind subtly engaged. And don't take my words out of context. I've loved some of the classical music I've listened to, but this just hooks me in a different way that I enjoy on perhaps a different level. And I think it's just so, maybe that's why, you said this was an influence on Mike Oldfield's music. Same reason why I love his music, and perhaps why my favorite albums from Oldfield are Omadon and Incantations. I don't know for sure, but as far as I understand, Incantations is a little bit of a controversial album for Oldfield. I love the repetition that happens in there. Same way I'm loving the repetition that happens in this particular piece of music, which I think is just incredibly wonderful. It sounds like a Rubik's Cube constantly like just changing and forming and reforming itself. Like, I'm sure I could find something. I want to show the visual of like what my mind sees listening to this. I'm sure I could find something. Almost, that's almost it. Like, there. This is the music. This is what's happening. You see what I mean? Like constantly moving, forming shapes, and coming in and out of itself. Like, this is like what I see. That's not it. What are you doing, brother? I just think that it is so cool how the music kind of comes in and out of itself and is constantly reforming and forming again. And there's all these elements. Like, it's like this kind of, I just think it's 100% like just very unique in how it engages. I think it challenges. I think it speaks. And while I was listening to it, I couldn't say exactly what. I'm still looking at GIFs to see if like there's one that like really perfectly. I mean, the Cube one, that one got it pretty dead on. But like the music itself, there was a part of it that also to me sounded a little bit jazzy. I can't tell you exactly why that is, but I feel like, oh yeah, here it is. This is how I'm seeing the music. That's how I'm seeing the music. Just constant movement, constant shifts. Yeah, I think that's so cool. But yeah, there was something jazzy about some of the horns that would come in and play amongst this. And I would be really interested to see or to hear this covered, you could have so many different instruments changed out. Take out, I don't know, the flute and put in a synthesizer. Change out the violin and put in some mellotron. Like, you could really play with the sounds of this and get different effects. You could add a beat behind it, and like, you could really like do something with this. So I just think that that's very, very cool to listen to. This was a really wonderful piece of music, and it sounded hopeful and joyous. It sounded positive and upbeat. So that's why I said, like, take this piece of music and take the time to listen to it on a hike. I would definitely say a hike when you're walking and you're just like on a sunny day by a river, in the woods, by a forest, by a creek. Just take the walk, and I think you would really, really have a wonderful time listening to this. It put a little bit of sunshine in your step. It says here, of course, let's see. Under the original title Octet, the work was commissioned by Heisker Rundfunk and completed in '79. It premiered at the radio. It was originally scored for string quartet, 2 pianos, 2 woodwind players, each playing clarinet, bass, or bass clarinet, not bass, and we're not fishing, and flute as well as piccolo. Reich rescored it in '83 to make the performance easier by adding a second string quartet and retitling the work 8 lines. The additional two violins solved the difficulty of playing rather awkward double steps in tune, and the additional viola and cello allow the rapid 8th note patterns to be broken up between 2 players to prevent fatigue, so they wouldn't have to play so fast so you have 2 people doing it at half the speed. I got you. To kind of still present that double time, even if it's 2 people taking the work of what originally was 1. The wind parts were originally conceived for 2 clarinet players, doubling both bass clarinet and flute, as well as piccolo. Though right from the world premiere, 10 players were used, dividing the wind parts among 4 musicians. The composer regarded this as a perfectly ordinary option, while pointing out whether there are 8, 9, or 10 performers, the piece is always musically an octet. And it goes on from there. Here's all your analysis of a lot of things that, listen, I don't know, but I can just tell you it sounds like a Rubik's Cube of music put together with some fabulous melodies. The work is divided into 5 sections. The first and third share a similar texture of rapid piano, cello, and bass clarinet figures, while the second and fourth are marked by sustained tones in the cello, which you heard those in the back, those long sustained notes. The fifth and final section combines these materials for a nice climax at the end. The divisions between sections, however, involve smooth transitions. Yeah, they are, with some overlapping in parts. That's why I said you can clearly hear the difference. If I, let me pull it back up here again. If I play here, God, how beautiful, man. And then like here, sounds the same, but it's kind of hear a little fade out happening, right? There you go. Now it's faded out, but the melody remains. That's good. As a result, it's often difficult to tell just when one section ends and the next begins. Couldn't have said it better myself. This was really, really cool. This is the album right here. Only 3 pieces of music, huh? I thought that was a really cool piece of music. We're not going to listen to like a full performance, but I would just like to see kind of how all the musicians kind of bring it all together. Steve Reich, let's see, put them all together. Steve Reich Octet. Maybe this is it. Let's see. Let me pull it up. I'm skipping ahead. And you know what? I feel like it'd be really hard to keep those repeated melodies. As it kind of said, the fatigue sets in, right? Of just doing the same thing over and over, but still executing it perfectly. This was a great suggestion. I'm really enjoying like this exploration into different music and different genres, different sounds. I really. I'm not gonna bore you. I'm not gonna preach to you. You know what I'm gonna say. You need to expand your walls. Everyone has walls. Let's push them out a little bit. Let's push them out just a bit. Let me know what you guys thought of it, of course, in the comments down below. Alan, thank you so much for the recommendation. I really appreciate that, and for the support here on the channel. Have a wonderful rest of your day, everyone, and I will see you all later. Bye.